Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuhu. You're watching Islamic Action TV. One more time, one more joint. Gorilla Minded Productions. Bilal Alihu at the helm at this moment in time. So what I want to do is talk about some developments, some new things on the horizon in the community. Great debate series continues. Date to be announced, location to be confirmed. We're debating homosexuality in the Muslim community. This one is going to be hot, this one's going to be fire. However, I just want to make it clear at this moment in time that this is not an event this is not a Punch and Judy show. This is supposed to be educative. This is supposed to be educational. There is misunderstanding and there is ignorance on both sides of the debate. So it's a debate. It's not about queer bashing or anything of that nature. I wouldn't, involve myself in anything of that nature. So keeping it 100, this is about opening up the mind and learning about perspectives. I mean, however you get down or whichever your perspective is, that's your business. That's fine. Allah is a judge. However, as human beings, regardless of our philosophical, political, or whatever our persuasion is, we can increase our understanding of each other or understand the school of thought or the philosophical perspective that a person holds. So this one is just about education. So I just want to put that out there. And just for the record as well, that there was some talk in the past about the last great debate that took place, that hot one about Revert and nominal designations. And, it was said that, that the word Revert was debated, or the concept of Revert was debated, and it was in London, and that, I've heard that, I may have been, as an organizer, as a person that moderated the debate and helped to organize that debate, that, there were some questions asked about why, for example, the organization called ARC wasn't invited. So just want to put the misinformation to bed, that I, on a number of occasions, on more than one occasion, officially emailed and contacted the official leadership of ARC, the official membership of ARC, the senior members of the Ahlulbayt Revert community, and I never received any official response to accept or to decline, but they were invited to take part in the debate, to provide debaters for either side of the argument, or to be invited as to be part of the organizing, promoting and facilitating the public discussion. But as I said, I received no official, not one official response to decline or to accept that invitation. Brothers, yes, and sisters did contact me privately just to say they thought it was a good idea or to ask for more clarification, but no official, as I said, no official acceptance was taken. And I took exception to it at the time, but I didn't really make my feelings known, but only because this issue's come up where I was asked, or questioned about not inviting this organisation. I specifically went out my way to invite the brothers and sisters, not as individuals, but because I'm aware that organisation is an official charity. It's a public body. It's not a private thing, so it's not nothing personal. I wasn't inviting anybody. It's just, you're my friend, we get along, or anything of that nature. I said it was an official. That's an official charity. In fact, one of the things, if I could take it a step further, is that the organisation is seen by many. How accurate is a matter of question, but it's seen by many as anybody who is a follower of Ahlulbayt, particularly, say, for example, in London, and they're not from a majority Shia community, like if they're not Iranian, if they're not Iraqi or Afghani or whatever, and they're seen as the quote-unquote Revert, then they're seen as being in some way affiliated to this organisation. And I want to make it plain and straight and clear that one, that's not true, that's misleading. Two, official, for example, myself, I have nothing to do with that organisation. Just, I know it as a public body, and I, have questions like I would ask any public organisation or anybody claiming to represent a certain demographic or a certain group in a town or a city. So, for example, they are a national charity. I would like to ask, do they have a constitution, and is it available, say for example, online, so members of the public can read that constitution? I'd like to ask, for example, why I never received a reply. Maybe I'm not important enough, but why, this was something that was taking place in the community and it involved quote unquote reverts, but the organisation on an official capacity never responded to have an official position to say we decline. We, for whatever reason, or we think it's a bad idea, or we think it's a good idea, or whatever the case is, there was no official response. So again, it's about accountability. Say for example, is an issue of funding. We know that the organisation receives funding or has received funds from various established organisations in the community. I've heard talk, for example, that the organisation called Art received £10,000, but I heard that on the wire. I'm just asking, was there an official announcement? Was that made known? Because if, say for example, you're a public body, you're claiming to represent a certain demographic, so you're going to people behind the scenes, shaking hands and requesting funding and requesting assistance. When that assistance comes through, those people that you claim to represent, are they being known? Is it transparent in terms of what's taking place? I don't know. I haven't got all the answers. All I've got is questions, and it'd be good if this could be maybe addressed, as I said, in a public domain in terms of what's put out there, because I think that it could be seen as disingenuous if there is a lack of transparency. If people are and I'm not casting any aspersion to say there's been any financial impropriety and anybody's buying Armani suits. That's not what I'm driving at. The point I'm making is about the lack of transparency. That why is this lack of transparency? Why are things taking place in the dark? And it's supposed to be an organisation that represents the quote unquote or so-called reverts in the community. I mean, I'm just actually intrigued. But I believe that there are some questions or some comments from my colleagues. So, feel free to interject. I'm open to receive questions, because I can be open for criticism, or I'm not above critique. So, I mean, if there's any comments, questions or criticisms, then I'm all ears.
What do you say to people who would accuse you of being against reverts and against the people who call themselves reverts? What's your answer to that?
I think that would be, I think what they call in classical debate, a red herring or a smoke screen or a straw man. I've made myself clear on a number of occasions about the term revert, why I think that it's not an appropriate term, but it doesn't mean that I'd be against a person because they choose to identify themselves how they want to identify themselves. I mean, it wouldn't make me against it. It might be against the idea, but it wouldn't make me necessarily. It's nothing personal. I don't have to dislike people. I think that I think there's something going on, and I think it remains an unspoken, and it's important to name these things for posterity, because I think that we have a responsibility in a way. We're recording the history. We're making history and we're recording the history, so I think it's important that I put it down in unspoken. I think that the term revert as a terminology, as a label, is cool, right? It's a word. I think it was used at a particular time to describe, like for example, when El Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, used the term, and when he was asked and said, so since you've converted to Islam, and Malcolm stepped in and said, to correct the interviewer, said, I didn't convert, I wasn't conned into anything, I reverted, returned to the religion of our people, returned to the original religion. So I think that, revert, it has its connotation, but I think it's a momentary act, taking your shahada if you wasn't born to a Muslim family and coming to Islam. So I don't think it's a real identity. And I think that what takes place oftentimes is that different people use that term with different connotations. I think, for example, when a white brother who comes to Islam or white sister comes to Islam and they use that term revert, I don't think that they're denying their history, their legacy. I think it's just, like kind of a prefix or to describe the kind of context of them coming to Islam. And the same for, like, for example, a Pakistani brother I got who's a good friend of mine who described himself as a revert in a particular context, but he's not given up his Pakistani history. It just means that I was born into a Sunni family and then I came to the path of Ahlulbayt. This is a nominal description, but I genuinely believe, and this is just me speaking from being a student of psychology, counseling psychotherapy, that I think oftentimes, en masse, the majority of the African Caribbean brothers and sisters who use that term, revert, use it as a way to avoid any form of what you call racial politics or to deal with identity issues. I think that it's the PhD, her name Joy DeGruy, who talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she talks about this transgenerational trauma. Now, obviously, there's this whole host of negative experiences because of the transatlantic slave trade and because of colonialism that Africans in the West, in the diaspora, in the Americas, in the Caribbean have gone through. Us being descendants of people from the Caribbean in London or in England, you know, these are some of the, this is part of our legacy. And I think that there's challenge, there's difficulty, there's issues, and there's political, social, economic issues that need to be addressed. And I think that oftentimes when people come to Islam, not just the Shia, the Sunni brothers and sisters, they have this problem as well. Also say it's just Islam and there's no colour in Islam. It's just a way of escaping having to address those difficult issues. People may feel angry towards me when they hear me say this. I don't mind, because I feel like that's just transference. They're not angry at me, they're angry at the situation. But I'm just raising it and bringing it to their attention. I'm just putting it in the room. So I think that when the brothers use this term revert and use it as an identity and use it as a shield, it's almost as a way of avoiding having to have any any responsibility to address the concerns or to deal with any of the issues that exist in the quote-unquote black community. So that's just my personal perspective, and that's why I am not into the revert game, and I think that's why I think that it can be dangerous.
I'm Solomon here. Assalamu alaikum. Very enlightening what I've heard, and I'm very much intrigued to know more of your views on this very important topic. I've had many people come to myself and say that in terms of ARC, that they find that when they go on, for example, onto ARC's website, they find that there is no information or any present movement of activities. And this has been so, they've noticed for quite a while. They've been trying their best to contact ARC and find out about the activities of ARC, and has ARC got any branches around the country, for example in Stockport or Birmingham or Leeds or London.
As a national charity.
And as a national charity, yeah. But yet they found that there is no evidence other than perhaps a few activities in England and perhaps a few activities trying to put together a constitution that shows any credible quantitative or qualitative evidence that there is any other presence of ARC outside of the South London area of which they've been constituted. Would you say that this adds more to the weight of your concerns, that ARC, in a way, I mean, this is my word, may be seen as disingenuously trying to represent a community that it doesn't really represent? In a way, in terms of marketing, that would be seen as, selling a particular product, claiming it does a particular activity, but under the Trade Description Act, you might be sued for false impersonation
false
of advertising. But what say ye
I get you.
on that particular point?
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know about the ins and outs, so I'd like to ask that question to, as I said, to the brothers and sisters who represent that organisation, not on a personal level because I'm being personal and I'm victimising or picking on anybody, but as a national charity, I would want to know what activities do go on as a national charity outside of London, for example, outside of South London, for example. In fact, I would want to know what activities go on inside of London. Like, is there a weekly program? Is there a bi-weekly program? Is there a 3-weekly program? You know, what actually takes place? I don't know, but I think that the reason why I raise these concerns as well, because one, just as a member of the public that is a Muslim and is concerned with what's going on in the community, but also because I'm wondering, like, you use that term, it's interesting about misrepresentation or like not false advertising, but are Muslims, followers of Ahlulbayt from other communities, the Iranian, the Afghan, whatever, when they see somebody who is not from one of those communities, not from them heritage communities, quote unquote, do they make the assumption that one, they're a revert, they like this term revert, and also they too just consciously or unconsciously lump that person, he or she, with ARC. You must be with ARC because ARC is revert, you revert, they revert, you are revert. So they may feel, oh, this is an organisation with, like, you know, hundreds of membership and a dynamic program going on, and so when they go to seek funding, the people may be, you know, or dealing with them on that certain level and not knowing that, you know, it could be like a a middle-aged man's club. Just, a few people talking about sub-clauses and subsections and things of this nature. So, I don't know. I'm putting it out there in the public domain. I think it's not a private conversation, it's a public conversation. It doesn't have to be filled with vitriol and name-calling and angst and anger, but I think that we should be open. I'm very aware, particularly because of our heritage as African Caribbean people. Now, I'm not just Muslim, just hiding in this Muslim term, this generic term, Muslim, because what does that mean? Something from Morocco, or there's different cultures. I'm talking about a cultural trait in the Caribbean community of, you don't talk 13 because they keep 13 quiet. Now, I think that's all right in the family, and sometimes it can be unhealthy. I think that's all right in the family, but I think when it comes to a public organisation, I think that there should be public accountability, and that's no negative inference or casting no aspersions. But with the silence, with the seeking funding, gaining funding, and people may be thinking, oh, okay, you're part of that, Bilal. No, I'm not part of that. And I've had that before. People come to me, you always ask me what's going on with Ark. I don't know. So I'm here in a way, kind of asking those questions myself, because people be asking me that stuff. I mean, is it because I was black? But anyway.
And I thought that was very enlightening, and that definitely is food for thought. Can I press you a bit further, perhaps, on maybe ascertaining from you more of your thoughts around another issue, which I would say perhaps comes up is, I don't know if you're aware, but obviously recently there's been this whole new thing because of Beyonce's Super Bowl performance around the Black Panthers. Mm-hmm. Now we do know that at the time when the Panthers first put themselves on the scene, there was two groups. There were two Panther parties, or there was two groups in the same area representing the black community. Mm-hmm. The Panthers made a decision, P. Newton's Panthers, to say to the other Panthers who were more bourgeois, who were more all about sitting in hallowed rooms and speaking about revolution and and wearing their sheikies, but there was never no activity, there was never no action. They claimed to represent the whole of the community in that area, but really they were just talking heads. But the Panthers decided that there has to only be one authentic organisation that is really dealing with the issue at hand in terms of someone comes Muslim. They they've now accepted Islam. Mm-hmm. They now want to develop an Islamic identity. Would you say that there is any other group similar to what the Panthers were, who would you say is legitimate in perhaps representing an Islamic expression that perhaps Ark is lacking?
Interesting question. Before I answer that, I'm going to tie it into another answer. I was speaking to a brother earlier, and he was saying that for him, for example, in London, there are too many Islamic organisations, and sometimes if you go left, right, there's a this trust, and that trust, the other trust, and it's leading to people to lose their trust because it's causing confusion. I think that is evidence of is that instead of there being this multicultural, cosmopolitan Islam that people claim from the books, where it kind of is evidence is that you have an organisation of a particular nationality of Shia, but then there's sprinkles to make it look diverse here, and then the same thing takes place there, and the same place there. So they're national, they're organisations based on tribal or national linguistic affiliation. So that's point one. That maybe there's too many. I think that Islamic Action TV, Islamic Action, has been an organisation that has been in existence for a period of time. You're talking the 90s, that has a credibility, that has a standing in the Muslim community, but also in the African Caribbean community, and has put on programs, that has built bridges, that is engaged in practical activities in terms of addressing the needs, the psychological and the spiritual needs of somebody coming from that background, coming to the path of Islam. So in terms of the other organisations, I think they're pretty new kids. They've been around a while, but they're pretty new kids on the block, in my humble opinion. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, all I'm asking for is transparency, because everywhere I go, people are asking me, Bilal, what's happening with Ark, and I kind of not fed up, but I put it out there so they can say what's going on. and I don't have to be asked that anymore because it will be addressed officially. So, you know, that's more or less what I wanted to say. But this video was about the Great Debate, the Great Debate series. I don't know, I kind of digressed a little bit. And like I said, the topic about homosexuality in the Muslim community, date and location to be confirmed. But watch this space. It's gonna, as I said before, it's gonna be hot, but it's gonna be intellectual. Until such time, peace.